Hey guys, GreatGamer34 here. So I'm doing a computer build today, and it's for a person who wanted to spend around $500. So everything in this build came out to be around 530 bucks. So let's start off with showing you what the CPU is. We have an X4 860K by AMD. It's like a 7870K without the GCN cores. And to do our graphics processing, we have an r7-370 by MSI. It's white, so it's going to match. The whole build is going to be white and blue themed. Next, we have the motherboard, which is an A78M-E45 V2 by MSI. It's blue, so it's going to match the blue and white build. It's also black, but it's hard to find a white PCB motherboard for these sockets. Next, we have the cooler, the CPU cooler. We have the GAMMAX 400. It's 120 millimeter. It's got a pulse width modular fan with a blue LED light built in. And the fan itself is also blue. It's a shitty picture, but yeah, the fan is also blue. So it's going to match blue and white build. Next, we have 16 gigs of RAM. So these are two 8 gig packages, which means each stick is 4 gigs. This came out to like 78 bucks for the RAM. So instead, you could have made this a $500 build and just got 8 gigs of RAM, but we wanted more RAM, so we went with it. Then we have, for powering this bad boy, we have a Rosewill 700 watt modular power supply. So what's nice about this is because this guy is getting into PC building for his first time, I wanted him to be able to upgrade to a higher power graphics card whenever he wanted to, or maybe even Crossfire, or swap out to NVIDIA and do SLI, whatever was his choice down the line. So I wanted to give him extra room to grow, and plus this guy was on sale for like 50 bucks, so why not? Then for hard drive, we have a terabyte Western Digital Blue drive, and then I also wanted him, because he was just getting into PC building, or PC gaming, I wanted to give him a disk drive too, so he could, if he ever wanted to interface with a disk, he could. And so yeah, and then last but not least is obviously this beautiful case. Take a walk around. It looks really nice. It's got 5 fans built in. It's got 2 in the top here, 2 in the front here, and then it's even got 1 back here. So it's got 5 fans total, and it's by DIYPC right there. So let's get this guy started. So what I'm going to do first is we're going to pop the CPU, RAM into the motherboard here. We're going to put the motherboard inside the case. Then we're going to put the heatsink on. Then we're going to install the graphics card. Then the hard disk. Then the DVD drive. And then, of course, before we even put the motherboard in that, the power supply will be installed in that with all the cables managed and up and around. So that is the build process. Now let's get it started. So what I'm going to do first is I found the right kind of screw we needed. I can't get this guy to focus. There we go. So it's kind of hexagonal shaped. So you should have about 4 or so in your case of screws, which happens to be this one. So I'm going to take these, and my power supply is in. It was really easy. You just slide it in from behind when the case is opened. You slide it in here, and you push it up against this. So now there's 4 screws that I'm going to put in. I'm going to put in one here, like right about there, and one in here, one here, one down there, and one over there. If I only have 4 screws, I can't put 2 up in this corner then. But if I have more screws, then I'll do that. And then my power supply's in. And I'll show you guys what to do next. So another thing that's important when you're working on, just about ready to work on your motherboard and start installing stuff, is when you open up your box, you need to make sure you grab this guy and put him in there first, otherwise you'll forget to do it, and then you'll install your motherboard, and then you'll realize, oh shit, I forgot to put this guy in. And then you have to take out your motherboard again, fuck with all the parts. You might accidentally fuck with a part, So let's just save the hassle and put this guy in first. So it's really easy. Let me switch hands here. So we take them, figure out which way the orientation is correct on the motherboard. So it looks like these guys are like this. And so the motherboard's going to be placed like this. So we come over here, come in from behind, just get it in here. And you basically just pop it in. So it's in there now. We just push in there. Now you're good to install your motherboard. You also might want to go back inside and make sure that's fully pushed in properly. I'm going to do that in a sec, but I just wanted to get it put in there so I don't forget it. So, now to start putting stuff on the motherboard. Alright guys, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to install my CPU here. So it's the X4860K. Now we're going to open up our socket like that. I'm going to open up my CPU case. So it comes with a heatsink. Comes with the power or the CPU, and then it comes with comes with a heatsink. So we're not going to use this heatsink. We have a different one that we're going to put on here. So we're going to go ahead and install this. So to do this, we're going to locate the gold triangle down in this corner, and that golden triangle will line up with this triangle up here on the motherboard. So we got to make sure they go in the proper spot. So what we do is I'm going to rotate this so it's easy to work with. I'm going to pop the tab on this. You got to make sure not to touch any of the pins. So you're going to pick it up. Gold triangle is also labeled on the other side. And you're going to come over and just drop it in. It should require no pressure. And that's the first part. Alright guys, so now we're going to go ahead and install the RAM here. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop it open. Literally just splits apart like that. Our modules come out. We get a little sticker, which we'll put over there. Backplate pops out. And now we just have our RAM. Which, if it'll let me remove it. Sometimes the packaging is hard to work with. There we go. So we have our first RAM stick. And what we're going to do is we find the slot that it has, and we line it up with the slots that it has here. We pop open our tabs here, like this. Let's pop open all of them. And since we have 4 sticks, we're going to be populating all spots, so we don't have to worry about dual channel or not. So the first thing we'll do is we'll do the first slot right here. And so with the RAM, you have to really line it up in there, and then it should be pushed down like with 2 fingers, like that, until you get these guys to close up. And there's our first stick installed. So now I'll do this for the second, third, and fourth. So we line it up. And flip it in. And push. There. And so those 2 came up. Now, second package. Comes with another sticker, which just popped out. Comes with another Gskill sticker, so throw that there. So pop out this stick, find the channel, line it up. And then push it down. Just like that. And then the last one. And there we go. So now now we have 4 sticks installed for a total of 16 gigs. We got our CPU in, and now we're going to go ahead and put this inside there, and then we're going to put on the heatsink. Alright guys, so now what I'm doing is I'm installing, here, get a video of that type of screw is my motherboard standoff screw, and that's going to be going in each one of these holes to mount my motherboard into the case. So we're going to start with this top right one. Alright, so the first one's in, and now that kind of lines up my motherboard so I can see where the other screws are going. So we're going to put a screw here, 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 and up here. So you can't really see that because it's behind that, but I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and I'll start the video up when I get this installed. Alright guys, so now that the motherboard's in place, we have to get the heatsink on it. So I'm going to go ahead and use this thermal paste that it came, and I'm going to apply it on here. And then I'm going to install the cooler. So there we go, we got the thermal paste on there. So now, if you take a look here, we got to peel this guy off, like that. And now, fresh clean copper, we're just going to mount him like this, in there. Let me come over here. There we go, it's in. Okay guys, so we have the motherboard in with the heatsink and everything done properly. So the heatsink is going to be pushing air through this side, blowing it out this way, and it's going to go out through this fan in the back. And then we also have the fans up here, which are going to be sucking air up like this. So we should have a nice draft coming through here. Okay, so now what I have to do is I'm going to install the GPU into this graphics slot. This is the PCI x16 3.0, and this is this x16 2.0 down here. So the graphics card is going to take up 2 of these slots over here. So it's going to take up these 2 slots here, so I have to remove these first. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Alright, so we have our graphics card that now has to go in the slot that's opened up. So if you can see here, we removed these 2 thin things. And so now all we have left to do is open up the graphics card, take it out of the anti-static bag. Like so. As you guys can see, it's a pretty nice PCB, or nice cooler, nice PCB. Everything comes with a nice little rubber protection. So we're going to actually slide this guy off. We take it like this, flip it, and see if it'll flip in. Yep, and now we just push, and now it's installed. Our graphics card is in. Now all we have to do is get the power and plug in the power right up here, and that'll be next. Okay guys, so now that our power supply is in, and the only things in our power supply that are hooked up are the PCIe, the 8-pin up here for the motherboard power, or for the CPU power, and then our 24-pin here for the motherboard power. So we're going to go ahead and do the motherboard pin first. And so this, the catcher here is on the right side, and it's on this side here that it goes to. So we flip them upside down and plug it in. And now we have our 24-pin power connected for our motherboard. Now we just got to go up here and plug this guy in, up here. And I'll do that because it's going to be hard to fit my fingers in there off camera. And then that's most of powering up the motherboard. Okay, so now we got to plug in our fan for our CPU cooler. And now it says up here on the motherboard CPU fan, and it's got 4 pins, and our CPU fan here has 4 pins. So that's what it's got to get plugged into. So once you do that, then your CPU will have pulse width modulation. Okay, so now we're going to hook up our front panel connections. So that's everything from up here that controls the power and all that, and the USBs and stuff that's up here. So we're going to plug this guy into the USB 3 header right there. And we're going to want to make sure that it's lined up properly and that it's oriented properly. Once you have that, it's as simple as pushing it in. Yep. So our USB 3 is installed. Next we got to install our USB 2.0 and our HD audio. So here's our USB, it says USB on it, and it's going to go plugging into the USB slot right here. It says USB 1, so we find the dead pin, we line it up with the dead pin on this, plug it in. USB 2 is hooked up, and now we just need our HD audio, which the connection is all the way over here. We see that the dead pin's up at the top left, so we orient it. Okay guys, so I'm going to install 2 SATA cables because I have a hard drive and a disk drive that I want to install. So I have 2 corners. I have a 90 degree and I have a straight. So I'm going to plug both of the straight ends right into the SATA port right up here. So if we look here, we see that the L is like that. So we have to position it like this, and it's just going to slide right in to our SATA port. So I want to plug it into the first one. So my first SATA port is the bottom left of them all. So there's one in, and then I want to plug in the second one to the second port, which is right there. And I'm going to run these wires right through this hole, just like that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to prop this computer up, and here is my 6-pin cable that's going to plug in and power my graphics card. So since my power supply is modular, this has to be plugged into that. So I'm just going to go ahead and stand up the computer and plug it in. So we'll come around back here, and we'll notice that we have to plug in all the way back there. So I'm going to plug this in, and I'm going to route this cable up and around through here. So, okay, so now we have to hook up our fans that are built into the case. So we have 2 Molex here that need to get power, so I plugged in a cord into the power supply because it's modular, and then I have Molex connectors on here, along with an extra 4-pin power for another fan. So I'm going to go ahead and hook up this Molex here. that Molex is in. And we just gotta hook up the other one, which is this guy. And there we go. Now when we turn on our power supply, our fans will have power. Okay. Alright, so what I did is I put our hard drive in one of these drive bay things. There was no screws or anything, it literally just clicked in. We're going to slide it in, like so. And now it's in there. So now we need SATA power and SATA data. Or SATA data, SATA power. So what I have here is the one SATA from the motherboard that we plugged in. So we use the 90 degrees, so that clips in really nice, like that. And then we need the SATA power, which is this one, which we plugged in. So you see which way the L is. You have to make note to plug it in such a way that it lines up. Just like that. Now the rest of these are going to come up here, and it's going to be used to power our disk drive, along with this leftover SATA cable right here. So this will be for our disk drive. Alright, so now we're going to be installing our disk drive. So I removed the bottom thing, and this just slides literally straight on through. And then if you come over here, you can see that there's two screws that can go in place wherever you want. You can slide it all the way up to here, you can bring it up there. So I'm going to go ahead and screw it in right about there. But first, if we come around here, we need a way of giving data and power to it, which is these two things. So we're going to come up here and bring them through this port hole. And we're going to come back in on the other side here and plug them in. So first things first, so we need the data, which is this guy right here. So he's in, and now we need the power, which just slid out. And that goes in right behind here. And so there, we're in. Okay guys, so it's all booted up. I'm trying to load Windows onto it right now. It's copying all the files properly. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop off this panel here and show you guys how the cable management looks. I'm pretty proud of how I did the cable management in this build. Okay, so we come down here, and you can't really tell where the wires are. I mean, it's so dark. And then, yeah, it's not too bad. It's pretty clean. And then I'll show you the other side where I did the cable management. So if we come around to this side, and if I pop off this guy, this guy, that. That is the wiring behind here. Okay. Won't focus for some reason. But okay. So yep, tied up all my wires, got them all managed behind there so I can slide the case on. And as you can see, Windows is starting. So it was a successful build. Thank you guys for watching, and if you enjoyed it and want more builds like this in the future, subscribe to me on YouTube.